Another story, great band, Metallica, rock band. A lot of people don't know about this, but they were in an accident. The bass player of Metallica was a really good bass player, their first bass player, and they were all in the bus together on a tour, and the bus hit some ice and the bus started tumbling. And Cliff Burton, the bass player, flew out. Everybody was okay, but him. He ended up died at the scene right there. And they were mad about it, you know, and Metallica ended up getting really mad at the bus driver, and they were like, "Why'd you kill him? You killed him." And then later that night, they got really drunk, and Metallica all looked up to the sky, and they all shouted, you know, Cliff Burton, where are you?" But they didn't know where he was. But they were just like, God, you know, somebody answer us. That's the point. They were shouting for this bass player that I guess had passed away that night. Well, here's something you might not have heard before. I mean, it's a really good story that I heard, you know, from the grapevine or whatever, about a Saturday Night Live story, which was basically Kevin Nealon, before he was on Saturday Night Live, he was sitting at home actually by a phone, and the phone rang, and he picked up the phone, and it was Dana Carvey, which also hadn't been on Saturday Night Live yet. He wasn't even on the cast yet. And he basically was telling him, hey, guess what? You'll never guess where I'm at right now. And he said, where? You know, where are you at? And he said, I'm at Lorne Michaels' house. And he goes, you'll never guess who's in the other room. And he goes, who's in the other room? And he said, Chevy Chase is in the other room with Paul Simon. Okay, this story takes place, I guess, on the set of The Whole Nine Yards, which starred Bruce Willis and Matthew Perry. Well, Matthew Perry was hanging out with Bruce Willis. You know, they're kicking back, enjoying the movie time and stuff, and all of a sudden this production assistant comes up, and he's like frantic. You know, he's like, you gotta call on the phone, Matthew Perry. And Matthew Perry goes, well, who is it? And he goes, I really don't know. I can't tell you, but it's important. And he ended up giving him the phone. Sure enough, I guess it was Sigourney Weaver, which Sigourney Weaver was just like 2 towns up the road, I guess, from wherever they were shooting. And she said, hey, what kind of food do you like? And he said, well, I guess my favorite food would be Chinese food. Well, sure enough, Sigourney Weaver's like, guess what? I'm taking you to the most finest restaurant, Chinese restaurant that I know about in this town, and check it out, it's on me. I'm gonna buy the whole dinner that night. I think she bought him drinks and she bought him food. They just ate food that night together. Okay, little do people know about Hollywood as far as things that, you know, happen on accident where, you know, people end up getting famous. Well, this guy, little short fat kid, he's in Burger King, you know, he's minding his own business. He starts eating some food. This guy walks up to him. He said, hey, I'm a big shot in Hollywood. I am actually like a producer that has a lot of money, and I'm a director too. And I'm going to make this movie. It's called Angus. He said, hey, you look like you'd be an Angus. Sure enough, they pick him. They cast him for the lead role in Angus. He ends up becoming a big star overnight. And that's the point. I mean, it's like nobody really knows what's going to happen. Even guys like Angus, you know, even though he was just eating in Burger King, they end up, you know, tells a good story. You know, that, I mean, it's not a fairy tale. It's a real story.